In 1998, when the SPL was formed, it was announced that for the first time ever, players in Scotland would be allocated their own squad number. And since then, some players have got creative. This is every single weird squad number in Scottish football. Derek Riordan, number 01. When Derek Riordan returned to Hibs in 2008 after a 2-year spell at Celtic, you'd have thought the biggest story would have been about an old fan favourite returning. But no, the drama was all about his shirt number. See, before leaving Easter Road, Riordan had been the proud owner of the number 10 jersey. But while he was away, striker Colin Nish had claimed it, and as he joined so late in the transfer window, Colin Nish was unable to give it back. That left Riordan with a problem. How do you keep your identity as Hibs' number 10 while the number 10 is already taken? His solution? Just flip it. Instead of wearing 10, Riordan persuaded the club to give him number 01. And so, in his second debut for Hibs against Dundee United, fans looked down at the team sheet and saw their returning hero running around in a shirt that looked like it had been printed backwards. It caused more than a few to double check their eyes. Was he trying to be a goalkeeper? Was it a typo? No, this was Derek Riordan just being Derek Riordan. For a whole season he stuck with the bizarre number 01, waiting patiently until Colin Nish eventually shifted to number 9 after Stephen Fletcher left for Burnley. Sure enough, by the 2009-10 season, Riordan got his beloved number 10 shirt back, but for that 1 year, Easter Road had the rare sight of a Hibs player wearing number 01. Sheriff Toure-Maman, number 91. Back in 2001, Livingston had just been promoted to the top flight for the first time in their history, and they signed a lot of players, including guys like Carlos Aurelio, Simon Del Nero, and even a guy who would go on to play over 120 games for the club, called Rubio. But the one who picked the odd squad number was Togo international Sheriff Toure-Maman, who decided that for his time at Livy, he'd wear the number 91. Why? Well, apparently it was his lucky number from childhood, taken from a basketball shirt he once owned. He even had Sheriff on the back of his kit at first, but the SFA weren't having that. They made him use his real name. On the pitch, he gave Livingston fans a few moments to remember, most notably when he scored twice in a 5-1 demolition of Motherwell in October 2002. But there was some controversy off the pitch, surrounding his age. You see, when Livingston signed him, it was reported that he was born in 1981, making him 20, but other documents claimed he was actually 3 years older. The age controversy cropped up again in 2005. While on trial at Norwegian club SK Brann, he claimed he never played in Europe before and that he was actually born in 1985, again making him about 20. Although it all started to unravel when SK Brann midfielder Charlie Miller, who'd already faced him in Scotland, recognised him and straight up asked, "Wait, didn't you play for Livingston?" Toure denied it, but by that point the jig was up. Despite the odd shirt number and the even odder age mystery, Toure still had a solid international career with Togo, playing at 3 African Cup of Nations and even going to the 2006 World Cup in Germany. Victor Wanyama, number 67. When Victor Wanyama arrived at Celtic from Belgium side Beerschot in 2011, he had a bold idea. Instead of picking a classic midfielder's number, he chose 67 to honour the Lisbon Lions, the legendary Celtic side that lifted the European Cup in 1967. It was a gamble. If he flopped, the headlines would have written themselves, a player letting the shirt down. But instead, Victor Wanyama made that number his own. Signed for just 900,000, the Kenyan midfielder quickly became a powerhouse in Neil Lennon's side. He made his league debut in August 2011, which was a 1-0 loss to St Johnstone, but within a year he was dominating games in Scotland and attracting huge interest from down south. QPR even launched an £8.5 million bid after his first season, nearly 10 times what Celtic had paid. But his real place in history came on a night in November 2012. Celtic Park, the Champions League, and Barcelona in town. Wanyama rose highest from a corner and powered a header past Victor Valdez, becoming the first Kenyan to ever score in the competition and sending Celtic fans into dreamland as they pulled off a famous 2-1 victory. By 2013, his performances had earned him a record-breaking £12.5 million move to Southampton, at the time the most expensive sale in Scottish football history. But at Celtic, he'll always be remembered as the man who wore 67 with pride, channeling the spirit of the Lisbon Lions and backing it up with performances that made him a hero in his own right. Stevie May, number 17. Sometimes a squad number feels like destiny, and that was the case for Stevie May at St Johnstone. Born in Perth and a product of the Saints youth system, May switched to the number 17 for the 2013-14 season. On the surface, nothing that unusual, but what followed turned that number into one of the greatest coincidences in Scottish football. That season, May was unstoppable. He scored against Rosenborg in Europe, smashed goals past Hearts, Hibs, Ross County, and seemed to find the net almost every other week. By October, he was winning Player of the Month awards, firing in hat-tricks, and had Tommy Wright calling him a player heading to the top. But here's where the magic of 17 really came alive. May's goals powered St Johnstone all the way to the Scottish Cup final, the first in the club's history, and the date of that final just happened to be the 17th of May 2014. On that day, with the number 17 on his back, Stevie May set up Stephen McLean's clinching goal as Saints beat Dundee United 2-0 at Celtic Park. It was the greatest day in St Johnstone's history, and the perfect coincidence between player, number and date. And in true Scottish football fashion, Aberdeen even tried to copy the idea later by asking him to wear the number 83 shirt as a nod to their 1983 UEFA Cup Winners' Cup triumph. But for Saints fans, Stevie May and the number 17 will forever be tied to one of their greatest ever moments. Gary Hooper, number 88. In 2010, Celtic paid £2.5 million for the man voted as Scunthorpe's best ever player, Gary Hooper. And on arrival, he chose to be the first ever player in Scottish football to wear the number 88. The choice was simple enough. 1988 was the year of his birth, but it also carried an extra layer of meaning because 1888 just so happens to be the year Celtic were founded. So by accident or design, Hooper was literally wearing a number that tied himself directly to the club's history. And while the number itself might have some awkward connotations outside of football culture, at Celtic, it became linked with goal-scoring exploits. Hooper netted over 80 times for Celtic, including having the best strike rate in Britain during the 2010-11 season, and the fourth in Europe, behind only Ronaldo, Messi and Antonio Di Natale. He even scored 5 in one game against Hearts and played a key role in helping Neil Lennon's side reclaim domestic dominance. At Celtic, he was super duper Gary Hooper. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the subscribe button. It's completely free and massively helps out. And if you're feeling extra generous, why not hit like as well? Back to it. Rudi Skacel, number 51. When Rudi Skacel signed for Dundee United in October 2012, fans were curious what number the former Hearts hero would take. The answer? 51. And it wasn't random. It was a not so subtle dig at city rivals Hibs. A direct reference to Hearts' 5-1 hammering of them in the 2012 Scottish Cup final, a game where Skacel himself scored twice. The stunt caused instant controversy. Hibs captain James McPake branded it childish, while Dundee United manager Peter Houston even apologised publicly, admitting he had no idea about the number's meaning and claiming he would never have allowed it if he had. For Hearts fans though, they loved it. The Czech midfielder had already cemented himself as a club legend at Tynecastle, and most likely would have re-signed if Hearts hadn't been banned from registering players due to unpaid wages. Skacel's time at Dundee United was short-lived. In his half a season, he only managed to score once in 16 appearances, but the number 51 on his back ensured he made headlines before even kicking a ball. Hicham Zerouali, number 0. In football, there's been some wild shirt numbers over the years, but none quite like Hicham Zerouali's. When the Moroccan forward joined Aberdeen in 1999 for $450,000 from FUS Rabat, he initially wore number 47. But after Aberdeen fans nicknamed him Zero, he did something that no player in the UK had done before. He wore the number 0. Instantly becoming a cult hero at Pittodrie, he lit up the pitch with flair, tricks and long-range goals, quickly proving he deserved the title of fan favourite. Teammates were equally impressed. David Priest recalled watching him at training, taking the ball to the byline and bending a shot past Jim Leighton with the outside of his boot. Darren Young described him as a lovely guy, the sort it's impossible to dislike, and fans would always remember his unique style. Sadly though, the number 0 was banned in British football the following season, forcing Zerouali to switch to number 11 for the following season. Despite only 48 games for Aberdeen, he scored 13 goals, helped the club reach 2 cup finals, and became a symbol of creativity in Scottish football. After leaving Scotland, he played for Al Nassr in the UAE, then back home to Morocco to play for FAR Rabat. Tragically, in 2004, just a day after scoring twice for FAR Rabat, Zerouali lost his life in a car crash, aged just 27. Fans gathered at Pittodrie to pay tribute, and his legacy lives on as Britain's first and only footballer to wear the number 0. Rest in peace, Hicham Zerouali. Ali McCoist, number 5. When you think of Ali McCoist, you think goals, you think Rangers, you think classic number 9. But at Euro 92, McCoist somehow ended up wearing the number 5 shirt for Scotland. Yep, a centre forward, one of the most natural strikers in the country's history, running around Sweden dressed like a centre back. So how on earth did this happen? Well, it all comes down to a bizarre numbering system dreamed up by Andy Roxburgh and his staff. See, most tournaments back then stuck pretty closely to the old 1 to 11 format. Keepers in number 1, strikers in 9, playmakers 10. But Scotland ripped up the tradition completely. They decided squad numbers would be handed out based on caps won, the only exception being the goalkeeper and the captain. Andy Gorham took number 1, Richard Gough wore 2, and then from there it was straight down the cap list. That's why Paul McStay with 50 caps somehow ended up in the number 3 shirt, Maurice Malpass with 50 took number 4, and next in line with 38 was Ali McCoist, which is how one of Europe's deadliest strikers wound up having to wear the number 5 shirt. It got even weirder. Brian McClair, another forward, was number 6, Dave McPherson, a centre-back, wore 8, and Aberdeen's right-back Stuart McKimmie was given the honour of wearing number 9. Sadly, the quirky numbering didn't bring Scotland much luck. They lost to the Netherlands and Germany, meaning they were already out before beating the Commonwealth of Independent States 3-0 in their final game. And while McStay, McClair and Gally McAllister got on the scoresheet, McCoist and his unlucky number 5 shirt went home goalless. To this day, no other national team has tried that system again. Probably because it's ridiculous.